What if the way you drink your coffee every day could be quietly affecting your blood sugar, not the coffee itself, but how you drink it? Because for many people over 60, coffee is part of the daily routine, every morning, sometimes more than once a day. It feels harmless, even healthy. But here's what most people don't realize. Small habits around coffee, what you add to it, when you drink it, how often you consume it, may influence how your body manages glucose over time, and in some cases, those effects are easy to miss. I've had patients tell me, "Doctor, I don't eat that much sugar, but my blood sugar still isn't where it should be." And when we look closer, coffee is often part of the conversation. My name is Dr. Adrian Keller, and today I'm going to show you what doctors are really referring to when they talk about the right way to drink coffee, especially after 60. Because once you understand this, you may start looking at your daily cup very differently. Let's take a closer look. Let's be honest for a moment. For many people, coffee isn't just a drink. It's part of the routine. You wake up, you make your coffee, and your day begins. Sometimes it's 1 cup, sometimes 2, or even more. And most people don't think twice about it. Because coffee by itself doesn't feel like a problem. In fact, you've probably heard that coffee can even have benefits. So naturally, it's not something you question. But here's what I've seen over and over again. People are careful with their diet. They try to avoid obvious sugar. They make small improvements where they can. And yet, their blood sugar levels don't always reflect that effort. And that's where things get interesting. Because sometimes, it's not about what you think you're doing wrong. It's about what you've never thought to question. And for many people over 60, coffee habits fall into that category. Not because coffee is inherently bad, but because how it's consumed can make a difference. Now let's look at one of the biggest misconceptions that leads people in the wrong direction. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear is this: coffee is either good or bad. People tend to think in extremes. Either it's helping your health or it's harming it. But the reality is much more nuanced, because coffee itself is not the main issue. What matters most is how you drink it. I've seen people completely avoid coffee, thinking it's the problem. And I've seen others drink multiple cups a day without considering how it's affecting their body. Both approaches miss the point, because coffee is not a single variable. It's part of a pattern. What you add to it, when you drink it, how your body responds, all of these factors play a role. I often explain it like this: coffee is just the base. Everything around it is what determines the effect. And when it comes to blood sugar, those details matter more than most people realize. So instead of asking, is coffee good or bad? A better question is, what is my coffee habit actually doing to my body? Because once you understand that, you stop looking for simple answers and start seeing the bigger picture. Now, let's take a closer look at what actually happens inside your body when you drink coffee, because this is where everything starts to connect. So what actually happens in your body when you drink coffee? The key player here is caffeine. Caffeine stimulates your nervous system. It helps you feel more alert, more awake, more focused. That's why so many people rely on it in the morning. But caffeine also triggers another response. It can increase the release of stress hormones like cortisol. And cortisol plays a role in how your body manages energy, including blood sugar. I often explain it like this: when your body senses stimulation, it prepares for action. And part of that response is releasing glucose into your bloodstream. Now, in small amounts and in the right context, this isn't a problem. Your body handles it. But when coffee is consumed in certain ways or combined with other factors, that response can become more noticeable, especially after 60, because the body's ability to regulate these changes is not exactly the same as it used to be. Now again, this doesn't mean coffee is harmful. It simply means that your body responds to it, and how you manage that response is what makes the difference. Now let's look at the real issue, because for most people, it's not the coffee itself that creates the problem. So what's actually causing the issue for most people? It's not the coffee, it's everything around it. I've had patients tell me, "Doctor, I don't drink sugary drinks, I just have coffee." But when we take a closer look, that coffee includes sugar, flavored syrups, creamers, or multiple cups throughout the day. And that changes everything, because what starts as a simple drink becomes something very different. I often explain it like this: coffee is neutral, but what you turn it into is what affects your body. And when those additions are combined with timing and quantity, that's when blood sugar can be impacted. Not dramatically at first, but gradually, over time. And the challenge is, these habits feel small, harmless, routine, which is why they're so easy to overlook. So instead of focusing on coffee as a problem, we need to look at the patterns around it, because once you see that clearly, the next steps become much easier. Now let's break down the first and most common mistake. And this is one I see almost every day. The first and most common mistake is adding sugar to your coffee. Now this might seem obvious, but what surprises many people is how quickly it adds up. 1 teaspoon, then another, sometimes multiple cups per day. And over time, that becomes a consistent source of sugar, even for people who believe they don't consume much of it. I've had patients tell me, I don't drink soda, I avoid sweets. But when we calculate their daily intake, coffee alone becomes a significant contributor because liquid sugar behaves differently. It's absorbed quickly, which can lead to spikes in blood sugar, followed by drops in energy. And when that pattern repeats daily, it can affect how your body manages glucose over time. Now again, this doesn't mean 1 cup with sugar is a problem. The issue is consistency. Small amounts, repeated every day. That's what makes the difference. And that's why this first habit is often the most important to recognize. Now let's move to the second mistake, because this one is less obvious, but just as important. The second mistake is drinking coffee on an empty stomach. This is extremely common. You wake up and the first thing you reach for is coffee. No food, just caffeine. And for many people, this feels normal. But here's what's happening inside your body. When you wake up, your cortisol levels are already naturally elevated. That's part of your body's process of waking you up. Now, when you add caffeine on top of that, you're amplifying that response. And as we mentioned earlier, cortisol plays a role in how your body manages glucose, which means that drinking coffee in a fasted state may increase blood sugar levels more noticeably in some individuals, especially after 60, when the body's regulation becomes more sensitive. I've seen people say, I only drink black coffee, nothing else, and they assume that means there's no impact. But timing matters, not just what you drink, but when you drink it, because your body responds differently depending on its state, fed or fasted, rested or stressed. So instead of thinking only about the coffee itself, we need to consider the context, because that's where the difference is made. Now let's move to the next mistake, and this one builds slowly over time. The third mistake is not about what you add, or when you drink it, it's about how much, because coffee, in moderate amounts, is generally well tolerated, but when it becomes frequent, cup after cup throughout the day, that's when the effects can start to accumulate. I've seen people go from 1 cup in the morning to 3, 4, sometimes more, not all at once, but spread throughout the day, and it feels harmless, because each cup seems small, but your body doesn't reset between cups. Caffeine stays in your system for several hours, which means each additional cup builds on the previous one. Over time, this can lead to more stimulation, more stress response, and in some cases, greater fluctuations in how your body manages energy and glucose. Again, this doesn't mean coffee is the problem. It means the dose matters. I often tell my patients, it's not just what you consume, it's how often your body has to respond to it, because constant stimulation, even at low levels, can add up over time. Now let's move to the next mistake. This one is often hidden, and many people don't even realize it's there. The fourth mistake is what you don't immediately notice. Additives, things like flavored creamers, sweetened milk alternatives, and syrups. They don't always taste extremely sweet, and they don't always feel like sugar, but in many cases, they contain hidden sources of it. I've had patients tell me, I don't add sugar to my coffee, but when we look closer, they're using creamers or flavorings that already contain sweeteners, and sometimes in amounts that are even higher than a teaspoon of sugar, because these products are designed to be smooth, easy to drink, and enjoyable, but that also makes them easy to overlook. And just like we talked about earlier, liquid sources of sugar are absorbed quickly, which means they can influence blood sugar without you fully realizing it. Again, this doesn't mean you can't enjoy your coffee, it means being aware of what's actually in it, because sometimes the biggest impact comes from the smallest additions. Now here's something that might surprise you, because coffee itself, when consumed the right way, may actually have a different role than most people expect. Now here's something that often surprises people. Coffee itself, when consumed in a simple form, may not be the problem. In fact, in some cases, it may even be associated with certain health benefits. Black coffee, without added sugar or heavy additives, contains compounds that have been studied for their potential role in metabolism and overall health. Some research suggests that moderate coffee consumption may be linked to better insulin sensitivity in certain individuals. Now, this doesn't mean coffee prevents diabetes, and it doesn't mean it works the same way for everyone, but it does show that coffee, by itself, is not necessarily the issue. I often explain it like this. Coffee is neutral. It's what you add to it, and how you use it. That determines the effect. Because when coffee is kept simple and consumed in the right context, your body tends to handle it much differently than when it's combined with sugar, excess intake, or poor timing. And this is where everything we've talked about starts to come together. Because once you remove the common mistakes, what's left is actually much simpler than most people expect. So now, let's answer the question directly. What is the right way to drink coffee, especially after 60? So what is the right way to drink coffee after 60? It's actually much simpler than most people expect. Not extreme, not complicated, just intentional. The first part is keeping it simple. Coffee without added sugar, without heavy creamers or sweetened additives. Because once those are removed, you eliminate one of the biggest sources of unnecessary glucose spikes. The second is paying attention to timing. Instead of drinking coffee immediately upon waking or on a completely empty stomach, it's often better to have it after you've eaten something. That helps your body respond in a more stable way. The third is moderation. Not multiple cups spread throughout the entire day, but a controlled amount, usually 1 to 2 cups, depending on how your body responds. And finally, it's about awareness, paying attention to how you feel, energy levels, sleep quality, how your body reacts over time, because what works well for one person may feel different for another. I often tell my patients there is no perfect routine, but there is a better way. And when you follow these simple principles, coffee becomes something your body can handle, instead of something it has to compensate for. Now let's translate this into something practical, something you can actually apply starting tomorrow. So how do you apply this in your daily routine? You don't need to give up coffee, you just need to adjust how you use it. Start with something simple. If you usually drink coffee first thing in the morning, try having it after a light meal instead. Even something small can help your body respond more steadily. Next, take a look at what you're adding. If there's sugar, reduce it gradually. If you're using flavored creamers or sweetened products, consider simplifying. Small changes here can make a meaningful difference over time. Then, pay attention to quantity. If you're having multiple cups throughout the day, try limiting it to 1 or 2. Give your body time to process what you've already consumed. And finally, observe. Notice how you feel, energy levels, sleep, overall balance, because your body will often tell you when something is working. I often tell my patients, you don't need to change everything at once, you just need to make better choices consistently, and over time, those small adjustments can add up in a powerful way. Now, let's bring everything together, because this final part is what truly matters. So let's bring this together. Coffee itself is not the problem. For many people, it's part of a daily routine that can be enjoyed, but as we've seen, the way you drink it can make a meaningful difference. We talked about adding sugar, drinking it on an empty stomach, consuming too much throughout the day, and the hidden impact of additives, small habits that can quietly influence how your body manages blood sugar over time. And then we looked at a better approach, keeping it simple, being mindful of timing, limiting quantity, and paying attention to how your body responds. Not extreme changes, just better choices. Because after 60, it's not about removing everything from your routine. It's about adjusting it so your body can work with you, not against you. If this video helped you, share it with someone who might benefit from it. And if you want more clear, practical insights like this, focused on helping you understand your body and support your health, make sure to subscribe. I'm Dr. Adrian Keller. Stay aware, stay balanced, and take care of your health. I'll see you in the next video.